By legitimizing the supreme injustice of falsely denying the very humanity of individuals inconvenient to their power, Parliament removed any restraint over all lesser oppressions. And we're already seeing the fruits of that. Whether it's punishing people for their freely expressed views, or refusing to allow citizens to follow the reasonable dictates of their own conscience, or whether it's suspending civil liberties in order to squash protests against power, or if it's inducements to commit suicide to vulnerable and destitute people, or whether it's officially sanctioned and imposed racial discrimination. All of those things are happening in Canada today. The list goes on. And it is all the result of adopting this modality instead of justice and the rule of law based on recognition of humanity and evidence-based truthfulness. Honesty demands the pessimistic assumption that even the enlightened world that we enjoyed at the time of my youth is unlikely to return for our children or grandchildren. Without this model governing those in power, things are going to get worse and lead to the consequences of domination and obsession with power. And I don't know about you, but I found that to be a very, very bitter pill to swallow. And I've had to make a big attitude adjustment as a consequence.
Now, in the work that we do, where we're advising patients or clients who might be considering some of these things, there's been some questions like, do we change what we're saying about the abortion pill? And that's where I do want to underscore that if we want to influence at a legislative level or the decision maker level, the scientific data, we want to be as robust as possible in the data that we're collecting. So there have been some concerns about this report, but I think it's the canary in the coal mine, like it's going to cause some attention. So there, in one of the Catholic reviews in May, an organization, they had some, hang on, I've got to read their qualifications here. So they asked some doctoral level faculty in both public health and research to review how the data was collected and analyzed. And so they do have some concerns that because it didn't undergo a peer-reviewed process, that it may not be adequate, that the validity of the claims are uncertain. And so I'm okay with them saying that, because we want to say that anyone they don't have to have a particular worldview, but can we scrutinize data and say, this warrants more attention? Is that really true? Is this pill really as unsafe? What else should be done? So I think, again, it's part of making sure that the data that we have is helping to inform the decisions that are made for tomorrow.
With abortion, the Supreme Court of Canada did not enshrine a positive right to abortion, right? It only said that you cannot have a blanket ban on abortion, right? With MAID, the Supreme Court of Canada did enshrine a positive right to euthanasia and assisted suicide, right? That's how we have, and at the same time, the Supreme Court of Canada did not enshrine any right for healthcare, right? So that's how we have that the median waiting period, right, between requesting MAID and dying from MAID in Canada in 2023 was only 13 days, right? That includes from requesting MAID, applying for MAID, sending in the written paperwork, getting two physicians to do assessments for you, scheduling your final end of life, your funeral, and then scheduling the MAID appointment, getting that MAID appointment, and then dying for MAID. That was only 13 days. The previous year, it was 11 days. And that's median, right? So 50% less, 50% more than that. Getting a CT scan, which is not an elective procedure, right? In Canada, on average, according to the Canadian Institute of Health Information, was around 40 days, right? And this is it should be the definition of an elective medical treatment, right? And yet that is being speed run because there's no positive right for healthcare in Canada, but there is a positive right for a medically assisted death.
Euthanasia is not principally driven by autonomy and empowerment, but by this alienation and estrangement. And if we're curious enough, then we will hear and recognize that this is the case by people's own admission. And why are people participating in it? Many Canadians are afraid they're going to lose the relationship, that they won't be able to accompany the person if they don't agree and support the person's decision. But I really want to encourage that mounting resistance to what is essentially a form of suicidal ideation is always an act of love. And a person who is talking about suicide or euthanasia is waiting for someone who will push back and who will mount that resistance. And so is waiting for you, and you become responsible in these moments to be that one. Mounting resistance to what is a form of suicidal ideation is always an act of love. And the good news there is that even if a person in their freedom chooses to go through with euthanasia, you will have loved them well and faithfully to the end. By letting the person know not principles, not abstractions, but that I love you too much to see you go through with this. That you would break my heart if you left me. Or as one friend put it, it would be a mercy for you not to go through with this and leave me wondering for the rest of my life what I did wrong. It would be a mercy for you not to make this choice. Yes, it's your choice. Yes, you have autonomy. But this choice also has the power to wound. And so it would be a mercy if you don't make this choice and leave me wondering with all this insecurity and doubt.